Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to the YouTube channel of PRATHAM Test Prep. Myself Juhi Sharma, and here we are with yet another video for class 11th. Right now, this particular session is for class 11 students. Okay, and we at Pratham we do economic sessions for classes 11th and 12th. So we have completed a lot of topics before, and today we'll be starting with a microeconomics topic, consumer equilibrium and utility analysis. Now, this is a microeconomics topic, but before that, let me tell all of you guys who all are new over here that we conduct YouTube sessions for class 11th on every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Right? So make sure to tune into that. Okay, so Soham's question is, ma'am, fully a batch one batch class 12 का crash course कब शुरू होगा? Okay, so Soham, you will get to know. We'll notify you whenever your batch will get started. So don't worry about that, and it's gonna start soon. Okay. So today we'll be discussing the topic consumers equilibrium and utility analysis. But before that, once again, let me tell you that in the last session we have covered the production possibility curve. So yeah, who's a consumer? What's a utility? So these are two questions. If I have to tell you, if I have to start from the very scratch, what is a consumer? Who's a consumer? What is a utility? Right? So what's a consumer? Consumer is somebody who consumes the final goods and services. I'm a consumer, you are a consumer, right? So the person or somebody who consumes the final goods and services are the consumers, right? We have our own basic needs, we have our own needs to be fulfilled, right? So who's a consumer? Consumer is that economic agent who consumes the final goods and services to fulfill his or her basic needs, right? And why do we say, or when do we say that the consumer is in equilibrium, right? In what particular scenario or in what particular situation do we say that consumer is in equilibrium? So whenever, let me give you an example. You get your pocket money, right? I get my salary. Okay. So we have planned our expenditure in a manner that, okay, I know that these are the goods which I require, these are the services which I require. So I have planned my expenditure in this manner, keeping in mind my income, keeping in mind the market prices of the goods and services which satisfy me, so that I get maximum satisfaction out of that. Okay. So when any consumer, they you can say any consumer, they actually decides or they actually plan their expenditure in a manner wherein the income, wherein the market price they keep into consideration, and they get maximum satisfaction of the out of that. In that particular scenario, we say that consumer is in equilibrium. Now we need to know that utility, or if I have to say satisfaction, can be different for different people, right? So that is related to utility. What is utility? Utility is basically the want satisfying capability, right? Utility is the want satisfying capability. Okay. Now, utility, let's say for an orange may be different for you or for me, right? Utility for Uber or Ola maybe different, is different for me than from you. People who like commuting with metro, they have different utility for Ola or Uber than people who commute with their own vehicle, right? So what here I'm trying to say is that utility is very indistinctive. Okay, different people, they get different level of satisfaction, different people, they have different utility, different degree of utility for the same good. Okay, so it varies from person to person, right? So who's a consumer? Any economic agent who consumes the final goods and services to fulfill their basic needs is a consumer. What is a utility? Utility is the want satisfying power or the want satisfying capability, right? So, and it varies from person to person. Utility is very distinctive, it differs from one person to another person. So I hope you understand what is consumer and you understood what is utility now, right? Now when I say that consumer is in equilibrium, right? So a consumer is in equilibrium when he plans his expenditure in a manner wherein he keeps income, his income in consideration. He keeps the market prices in consideration. Also, he actually gets a maximum satisfaction of the goods and services he is expending on, right? So that in that particular scenario we say that consumer is in equilibrium. Bhavneet asked me ki for which competitive exam economics. So there are several economics exam. We have economic centric exam too. Then if I talk about the domain specific subject, economics is one of the subject in CUCT. The domain specific knowledge is required over there, wherein you need to have economics knowledge of 11th and 12th. So for that, economics is important for you, right? So moving further to the next slide, wherein we'll talk about the utility approaches. Okay, so there are two types of analysis in which we can analyze the utility. Now just think about it. In sometimes or in some cases we can analyze utility in a manner. Okay, we can give them a numerical value ki I am getting like 2, 3 or 4, right? I can put number to that. I have put it is measurable, right? In some cases utility is measurable. In that particular case I can put a number to it. Okay, so when utility is measurable, right, when it is quantifiable, in that case we say that it is a cardinal utility analysis. But in some cases the utility cannot be put into numbers. हम numbers में utility को put नहीं कर सकते. We just put it in ranks, right? We can't quantify it, right? We cannot quantify it. In that particular scenario we call it as the ordinal utility analysis, right? So whenever we have the level of satisfaction in numbers, as in whenever the level of satisfaction is measurable, in that particular scenario we say that it is a cardinal utility analysis. And when it is non-quantifiable, as in when we cannot put the utility in numbers, in that sense we say that it is a ordinal utility analysis, right? So, going by the definition or going by the words over here, cardinal utility analysis, what does it mean? It is defined as the perspective that is put forward by the economists who presume that utility is quantifiable, as in who says that utility can be put into numbers, utility can be put into numerical values like 1, 2, or 3. But let me tell you, this is not true, or this does not hold true in each and every case, right? So what is cardinal utility? Cardinal utility is when we put the level of satisfaction, when we put the utility in numbers, then in that particular scene it is a cardinal utility analysis. But when we don't have numbers, when the consumer is not able to put the utility in some numerical value in numbers, in that case we say that it is the ordinal utility analysis, because in that case we have the ranks, right? Now whenever we talk about utility, there are two types of utilities. We can say that there are two measures of utility about which we talk. So there is total utility and then there is marginal utility. Okay, what is total utility? Total utility is key. Okay, I have consumed so and so good, and by consuming let's say 10 quantities of so and so good, I received or I got this much utility from that particular good. Okay, I have spent this much amount and I have got this utility. So total utility is determined, total utility of a good and services is determined when we have the total satisfaction. Okay, हमने जितना यूटिलाइज करा, हमने जितना अमाउंट पे करा, उससे हमको जो टोटल सेटिस्फैक्शन मिला, टोटल कंटेंटमेंट जो मिला, उसको हमने क्या बोला? We call it as total utility, right? But on the other hand we have marginal utility too. And what is marginal utility? Marginal utility is basically the difference in the total utility and the one extra unit which we consume. Let me give you an example. So let's say that by eating 3 oranges, I achieve the total utility. Okay, I am satisfied, I am fully satisfied by having 3 oranges. Okay, but if somebody asks me, okay, have one more orange, right? So will it enhance or will it increase my total utility? No, right? So in that case, that one orange, that extra unit of good or services जो मैंने अपनी total utility मिलने के बाद जो consume करा है, that is the marginal utility. Okay, so it is the difference in the total utility due to the utilization of that one extra unit of goods and services consumed. Okay, so these are the two types of utility which we have, the total utility and the marginal utility. And when I tell you about the cardinal utility analysis, this is when the utility can be put into numbers, can be given some numerical value when it is quantifiable. In that case, this is cardinal utility. But when these utilities cannot be put into numbers, in that case, we say that it is the ordinal utility analysis. Okay, just the ranks, right? Now, further, we have the assumptions. Now, is there only one commodity in the market? The answer is no, right? There is no single commodity in the market. But again, we have the assumptions of consumer equilibrium when the consumer is consuming only single commodity. And then we have a different set of assumptions when a consumer is consuming two or more units of commodity, right? So you need to understand that when a consumer is consuming only one unit of commodity, then what happens? Then we know that the consumer is going to spend all the income. The consumer is going to spend all the income in this particular thing only. Okay. In single unit case or in single commodity case, what we have? We have just a fixed price of that particular commodity only. We have just that one particular commodity, right? And all the utility depends upon that. So the assumptions we take for the single case commodities are that in this particular scenario, the consumer is rational and they strive or they try to attempt maximize their utility, the maximize their total utility. This is number one. Number two is the assumption is that consumers fixed level of income, right? Consumer का जो income है वो shift नहीं हो रहा, of course, because अगर consumer का income बढ़ता है, then we have more wants, है ना? हम बोलते हैं ना कि हमारे और ज्यादा wants हो जाती हैं. So when consumer का income बढ़ता है, we have more wants. And what do we have? हमारी और चीजों का wants बढ़ जाता है, और चीजों के लिए हमारा क्या होता है? हमारा one satisfying part जो है वो different होती है. So for single case commodity, what we have is हमारा income should be fixed. That is another assumption. And the third assumption is कि commodity का price भी fix होना चाहिए. There should be fixed price of a commodity, right? But when the commodity comes to the double commodity case or more than two commodity case, in that case, all the assumptions remains the same, but there's an added assumption that commodities are homogeneous or perfect substitute. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि मैं बात कर रही हूँ एक पेट्रोल की बात कर रही हूँ, दूसरी तरफ मैं बात कर रही हूँ कॉफी की. No. In the two or more commodity case, the commodities should be homogeneous in nature or they should be perfect substitute. As in, अगर मैं एक बात हो रही है टी की तो दूसरी बात होनी चाहिए कॉफी की. So these are the assumptions of what? These are the assumptions of a consumer's equilibrium when there are two or more commodity case. Okay. Now, moving further to the law of diminishing marginal utility and law of equi-marginal utility. So whenever we talk or whenever we study about consumers equilibrium, right, whenever we study about utility, we have two laws. Okay, so you must have heard of these two laws in your textbooks, in your microeconomics book. The first law is the law of diminishing marginal utility. ये एक ऐसा लॉ है जो आपने अपने टेक्स्ट बुक्स में पढ़ा होगा, आपने अपने बुक्स में पढ़ा होगा. दैट इज लॉ ऑफ डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी. होता क्या है? That as you consume more and more units of commodity, right, the marginal utility it declines. Okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have a diet of eating two chapatis, right? But then your mother insists and she says, okay, let's have one more. Okay, you can't refuse her and you have just one more out of love, right? उन्होंने बोला कि नहीं बेटा एक और ले ले, आपने एक और ले ली, right? Your utility is for just two chapatis, right? But what you have third chapati to the fourth chapati to, right? So after a point, the marginal utility, as in the want satisfying power or फिर जो satisfaction आपको मिल रहा है from the third chapati would be less than from the other two. And Even fourth के लिए the satisfaction will be even lesser than the third one. So what does the law of diminishing marginal utility says? That as you consume more and more units of commodity, the marginal utility derived it declines, right? The marginal utility derived it declines. On the other hand, we have law of equi-marginal utility, right? What is this law of equi-marginal utility? This law is that consumer, he or she will always and always distribute the income in the goods or services, right? जिससे उसको लास्ट रुपी जो भी वो स्पेंड करे ऑन एवरी गुड, वहां से मैक्सिमम सेटिस्फैक्शन या मैक्सिमम यूटिलिटी मिले, right? Of course, we as consumers, what we want, कि if I have spent even 50 rupees on any product, I want the worth 50 rupees का मुझे satisfaction मिलना चाहिए. So that is law of equimarginal utility. Is what is law of equimarginal utility? Law of equimarginal utility is that consumer, they are very smart and they always distribute their money, they always distribute their income in a manner wherein for all the goods, for all the services in which he is interested in, he should get or he should derive the maximum utility even from the last rupee which he spends, right? And that should be equal. ओके तो हर गुड पर उसने जितना भी किया है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर मैं ऑरेंजेस की बात करूं, मैं स्टेशनरी की बात करूं, सो किसी भी चीज पे उसने जितना भी स्पेंड करा है अपना मनी, इस हिसाब से स्पेंड करे कि हर गुड से जो लास्ट रुपी स्पेंड हो दैट शुड बी इक्वल. दैट इज लॉ ऑफ इक्विमार्जिनल यूटिलिटी. मतलब हर जगह से मैक्सिमम लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फैक्शन मिलनी चाहिए. ओके, सो दैट इज लॉ ऑफ इक्विमार्जिनल यूटिलिटी. Now, moving further, we have consumers' equilibrium in a case of single commodity. सो अगैन, अगर कंज्यूमर जो होगा एक ही कमोडिटी कंज्यूम कर रहा है, कीपिंग इन माइंड द assumptions of single commodity case, in that case there will be a different level of equilibrium. But if a consumer is consuming two or more commodities, in that case the level of equilibrium will be different. I won't go into the depth of it because it's very easy to calculate how consumer will be in equilibrium, right? How consumer will be in equilibrium? That the marginal utility. So let's say if I'm talking about a single case commodity, if I'm talking about a single commodity, the single case commodity, in that case, the marginal utility, okay, the marginal utility of the good X. Suppose we have kept here good is X. X is the good over here, right? So marginal utility, consumer will be very rational. Consumers are rational, right? हम बहुत smart हैं. So being a rational consumer, वो equilibrium को कहाँ होगा? जहाँ पर marginal utility जो होगा वो equal होगा to the price he has paid for the commodity. तब जाकर उसको satisfaction आएगा कि भाई जहाँ पर उसका marginal utility जो आ रहा है, जो उसका want satisfying power जो आ रहा है, वो equal हो जितना उसने price pay किया है, right? So the formula for this is marginal utility of a good X. You divide that marginal utility from the good X, जो आपकी जो last unit आपने consume किया उसकी जो आपकी utility मिली है उसको आप divide करो from price of the commodity P. Px is the price of commodity, and then you will get the marginal utility of the money spent. Okay, so this happens in the single commodity case. I'm telling you again, whenever consumer is very rational, consumer is very smart, whenever a consumer wants to be at equilibrium, कब वो equilibrium पर आएगा? जब marginal utility of any goods and services, right, वो किसके बराबर होगा? It will be equal to the price he has paid for that particular commodity. So mu x upon px, x being the good, and then you will get the marginal utility of money, right? Whereas if it is a two commodity case or more commodity case, ठीक है, मैंने आपको क्या बताया था कि मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी ये है रिलेटेड टू लॉ ऑफ इक्वी मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी से, दैट मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी जो आपकी हर एक गुड पर आपने जो अपना लास्ट रुपी स्पेंड करा है, दैट शुड बी इक्वल, right? The last rupee spent on each and every goods and services should give you equal level of satisfaction. So in this case consumer equilibrium में कब होगा? Consumer equilibrium में होगा in a two commodity case जब आपका marginal utility from X, right, आपका वो होगा divided by price of x, that should be equal to marginal utility of y divided by the price of y, and that in total should be equal to the marginal utility of money. So even if अगर यहाँ पर हमने 2 लिया है, अगर हम 3 commodities लेते हैं, so the formula will be mu x upon px is equals to mu y upon py is equals to mu z upon pz is equals to marginal utility of money, right? So this will be the formula for 3 commodities. Okay, so you can make this for multiple commodities. So 2 or more commodities ke liye, this is the formula. Finally, for the last slide for the day is that there are some conditions for the consumer to be in equilibrium, right? जब भी आपका marginal utility analysis होता है, so there are some conditions for the consumer to be in equilibrium. Now what are those conditions? पहली condition जो है वो क्या है, that marginal utility per rupee must be the same across all goods purchased by the consumer. So that is the first condition, कि वो कितने भी गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज कंज्यूम करे, इररिस्पेक्टिव मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी जो पर रुपी उसको मिल रही है, दैट शुड बी सेम अक्रॉस ऑल दी कंज्यूमर्स. ओके, अक्रॉस ऑल द प्रोडक्ट्स इट शुड बी द सेम. सेकंड क्या है कि भाई मनी की मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी चेंज नहीं होनी चाहिए. दिस इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज मनी की भी तो यूटिलिटी चेंज हो सकती है ना, इट वेरीज फ्रॉम पीपल टू पीपल. सो द मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी ऑफ मनी शुड नॉट चेंज, right? The marginal utility of money should not change, it should remain constant. And the third condition is that law of diminishing marginal utility should remain valid. Okay, the law of diminishing marginal utility जो मैंने आपको अभी बताया कि the marginal utility, it, you know, it decreases whenever you consume more units, right? So the law of diminishing marginal utility है वो हमेशा valid रहना चाहिए. So these are the conditions or of consumers equilibrium when using the marginal utility analysis. Okay, अब आपने मेरे को ये बोलते हुए सुना, ये I have told you total utility, I have told you marginal utility. So this total utility and marginal utility, they have some relationship. इस पर questions बहुत ज़्यादा आते हैं. There was a relationship between total utility and marginal utility. So I'll show you this thing with a graph too. But here let's see that there are 3 cases of this total utility and marginal utility का relationship. नंबर 1 इज जब भी आपका मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी पॉजिटिव होगा, कब तक पॉजिटिव होगा, जब तक आपका टोटल यूटिलिटी बढ़ रहा है, राइट? सो एज इन, लेट मी टेल यू, कोई भी आपका कमोडिटी है, राइट? यू आर कंज्यूमिंग द यूनिट्स ऑफ दैट, यू आर कंज्यूमिंग द यूनिट्स ऑफ दैट. आपका जब टोटल यूटिलिटी जब तक नहीं पहुंचेगा, जब तक आपका फुल सेटिस्फैक्शन नहीं मिलेगा, तब तक आपका मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी भी क्या है, वो बढ़ता रहेगा, right? But once you get fully satisfied from that commodity, from that good, from that service, उसके बाद क्या होगा, आपका marginal utility क्या होगा, वो diminish होने लगेगा. जैसे हमने किसमें पढ़ा था, law of diminishing marginal utility में. तो आपका marginal utility zero कब होगा, when the total utility will be maximum. जब total utility आपका maximum है, उस टाइम पर आपका marginal utility will be zero. और अगर आप और कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं गुड्स को, I have given you the case of chapatis too. When you're consuming more and more units of goods, right, more and more units of chapatis, in that case आपका total utility तो कम हो ही रहा है, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ आप एक एक, जैसे जैसे आप एक एक यूनिट, एक एक चीज कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं, राइट, वैसे का वैसे आपका मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी भी नेगेटिव होता जा रहा है. सो व्हेन वी प्लॉट दिस इन ग्राफ, राइट, व्हाट वी हैव that here is the total utility. So as our total utility increases, right, आपने एक चपाती खाई, उसके बाद आपने दूसरी खाई, थर्ड खाई, राइट, टोटल यूटिलिटी आपकी जैसी इंक्रीज हो रही है, आपका मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी इज इन पॉजिटिव. वी विल नॉट से दैट इट इज डिक्रीजिंग, और व्हाट वी विल से दैट इट इज इन पॉजिटिव सिचुएशन. आपकी मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी भी पॉजिटिव है. जब आपकी टोटल यूटिलिटी मैक्सिमम पे पहुंची, उस केस पर मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी बिकम्स जीरो when TU reaches at the maximum level. And when the TU falls or the total utility falls, in that case आपका marginal utility आ जाता है negative में. So in economics, I would suggest you that whenever you study eco, just do not think of cramming stuff, because if you start cramming, you will not understand it. Always keep an example, always use example, understand, and then try to write the concept if in exams, right? Always support your answers with diagrams, always support your answers with some sort of examples so that it becomes, your answer becomes more impressive. Okay, so this was the last topic for the day. In the next session, probably it will get conducted, we'll go live next Wednesday at 9 p.m, same timings. The next session will be on indifference curve analysis. Till then, please do give this video a big thumbs up, like this video, subscribe to Pratham Test Prep's channel if you haven't subscribed yet, because trust us, we come up with like a lot of videos, a lot of live sessions which are very informative, very helpful for you. And yeah, give this video a thumbs up, keep revising, keep studying, keep yourself safe because the cases are rising. We'll be meeting super soon on next Wednesday. Till then, take care. Bye bye.